Hey, this is Jelani Stokes, and today on Artist Spotlight, we're going to be talking about the Eagles.
The Eagles were formed in 1971, featuring founding members Glenn Frey, Don Henley, Bernie Lennon, and Randy Meisner. They were all recruited by Linda Ronstadt as band members before venturing out to form their own band. In 1972, they released their self-titled album, Eagles, which spawned classic songs like Take It Easy, Peaceful Easy Feeling, and Witchy Woman. And their follow-up, Desperado, featured the classic track, Desperado. In 1974, guitarist Don Felder joined the band and was featured on their third album, On the Border, featuring the hits Already Gone and Best of My Love. In 1975, the album One of These Nights became their first #1 album in the US and included the US #1 hits One of These Nights, Lying Eyes, and Take It to the Limit. In 1975, guitarist and vocalist Joe Walsh would replace the departing Lennon. Their greatest hits album, released in 1976, is the best-selling album in the United States, with over 38 million units sold. Later that same year, the Eagles would release their groundbreaking album, Hotel California, which would sell more than 26 million copies US and more than 32 million copies worldwide. The album yielded two #1 singles, Kid in the Town and the classic, Hotel California. Meisner was replaced by Timothy B. Schmidt in 1977. The Eagles released their last studio album for nearly 3 decades in 1979 with The Long Run. The album features such classics as Heartache Tonight, The Long Run, and I Can't Tell You Why. The Eagles broke up in 1980, but reunited in 1994 for the album Hell Freezes Over, a mix of live and new studio tracks, and toured consistently. In 2007, the Eagles released Long Road Out of Eden, their 6th #1 album in the US, and launched the Long Road Eden Tour in 2008. In 2013, they began the extended History of the Eagles tour in conjunction with their documentary release, History of the Eagles. Following Frey's death in January of 2016, the Eagles reformed in 2017 with Glenn's son, Deacon Frey, and Vince Gill sharing lead vocals for Frey's songs.
There you go. Little background information on the Eagles, but now it's time for Jelani's 2 cents. And I got 2 topics that I really want to discuss when it comes to the Eagles. The first one, I want to talk about their transition from the beginning, where they were more of a country folk band, to more towards the end, they became more of a mainstream harder rock band. So to start off with the first thing, to talk about their transition, they all came together as acquaintances of Linda Ronstadt, each original member playing for her band at one point or another. So Don Henley and Glenn Frey decided they wanted to start a band. So they got together and they pulled 2 other musicians who played with Linda Ronstadt, and they formed the initial Eagles. I've always believed, and in reading and then also watching their documentary, The History of the Eagles, I highly recommend it. It always seemed as though Glenn and Don always wanted to rock out. They enjoyed that sound that they had been kind of cultivating over there in Southern California with all of the other artists that they had on the record label. But I think they wanted to get a little bit of a harder edge and really be a rock band. Bernie Lennon, I apologize if I mispronounced his name, was a great guitar player, but he was also a banjo player, and he really enjoyed this type of music. I mean, he was really in his element. And then Randy Meisner was a really smooth bass player who could also sing at the top and sing those really high notes in the top harmony. So as they first got together, they auditioned for Glenn Johns, who was this big-time producer who literally produced a who's who of major 60 artists. We're talking the Rolling Stones, the Who, Led Zeppelin, the Beatles. Okay? So, yes, this man has some credentials. At first, he was not impressed. And it took a few times, but when they sang a song and they all sang together, he became enamored with their vocal harmony. And that's what he focused on. So he produced their first two albums and stuck with that country folk sound, really highlighting their vocals. By the third album, Glenn and Don were really ready to try to expand their horizons musically. Plus, they were having issues with Glenn just personally and professionally. They were tired of his rules, they were tired of his production methods, and literally I feel like they were tired of the condescending tone he would give them. He would tell them, "You're not a rock band. The Who, that's a rock band." So, I mean, I think all of that, by the time they got to the third album, they were like, "We had enough of that." So they left. They hooked up with Bill Simsick. If I mispronounced his name, again, I'm sorry. Who was a producer and really an engineer, but he later became a producer for Joe Walsh, who would later join, but we'll get to that. So that was the first part, getting away from Glenn Johns. And then with that, they get into One of These Nights, which was really like the fork in the road from their country folk to their newer sound that they were moving towards. Because if you listen to One of These Nights, it is a rocker, okay? And then Take It to the Limit was another one of those songs that really showcased the melding of these two styles and them shifting away from that style that they originally were known for into their new style. But by this time, Bernie Lennon was really starting to become disillusioned with the band. Now, a lot of people will say because he wanted to play that type of music that they were known for from the beginning, which I think that's part of the answer, but I think, it's not as cut dry as that. I think a lot of it too had to deal with they were on the road a lot. Don and Glenn found each other as songwriting partners starting at Desperado, and they started to have a lot of success. So because of that success, they were able to kind of drive the band where they wanted to go, leaving the other members with less of a voice within the band. So when you lose your voice in the band to express yourself, sometimes you're just not having that much fun. So eventually in 75, he decides to depart, and then they bring in Joe Walsh, which really at that point completes their full transformation from that country folk rock into the more harder edge rock of the time. Because Joe Walsh was a rocker. Then they were ready for Hotel California. Woo! Okay, my second point, and I have to talk about this, and their breakup in 1980. Once again, I've read about it, and I watched the documentary History of the Eagles. Again, I highly recommend it. When I read what happened and the accounts of what happened that night, it screams to me a band that just needed a break. And I'm talking about the foundation pieces. And I'm going to put Don Felder there because he had been there long enough, since the third album. So he had been with Glenn and Don for a while and had been through this whole ride with them, except for their first two albums. But from third album on up, they just kept rising and rising. So Don was with them. So here's the thing. We all know if we're around people for too long, sometimes they'll start to get on our nerves. And sometimes the littlest thing can just bother you and you just can't stand it. And it's really not what they're doing, but this is just a product of, I've been around you too much and I need a break. And I felt that the Eagles had been running so hard, probably from 74 up until 80, just constant touring, recording. Not to mention that they just released their latest album, The Long Run, which was their effort to top Hotel California, which was an unbelievable success. So they had that pressure of trying to top Hotel California. So you got all of this, the touring, the recording, trying to match up, and by that time in 1980, What went on just screams, I've had enough. The story is they were doing a benefit concert for a California senator, and Don Felder, who really was not politically informed, he didn't really care for politics, didn't really want to do the show. As the senator was walking down the line, he was shaking each member's hand, and under his breath he said, I guess. Glenn Frey heard it, and to say this man was incensed is putting it very lightly. And he continued to get upset until they got on stage and they literally started arguing on stage, talking about how they were going to get it on once the show was over. I'm like, no, that is, if you're a performer, that's a no-no. Okay, I don't care what the problem is. You leave that backstage. And the fact that they were talking about how they were going to get it on and how they were going to beat each other up and how I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this, and it was X-rated, and I was just listening to it, it's like, yes, you guys need a break. Yes, it's time to move on. Because any musician or performer knows that's a no-no. If that's cutting into on stage, then yeah, it's time to take a break. So obviously, once the show ended, Don Felder broke one of his guitars, got in his car, and left. And at that point, Glenn just refused to do anything with the band, and the band basically at that point went on hiatus. They never officially broke up. It was never like, we're done. Glenn just stopped performing with the Eagles. He was just done with it, you know. And I think the rest of them were less. Probably Timothy Schmidt. I think he was excited because he had just joined the band about a year or two ago, so he was still enjoying himself. I would even say Joe Walsh was still there, but I could tell he had been with them since Hotel California, so he was on that run with Hotel, and I know they were hitting hard, but I still think he was good because he hadn't been there the whole time. Those three, Don Henley, Glenn Frey, Don Felder, were done. They had enough. They were burnt out creatively. They were burnt out, you know, touring wise. They were burnt out with the Eagles. They were ready to do something else. And it manifested itself on that stage in 1980. So, yeah, that's just prime. I'm ready to be done with this. And now, not now, but right now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Jelani's picks. These are songs that I've selected that are some of my personal favorites, but are songs that if you're interested in listening to more Eagles, these are songs to easily get you into the mix. Starting with number 1, this is one of their first hits. It's such a laid-back groove because it wants you to take it easy.
Take it easy, take it easy.
Number 2, gotta give a shout out to Randy Meisner for giving the bass the business at the beginning of this classic song, One of These Nights.
One of these nights.
This song's everywhere. It's an absolute classic. You should know it like I know it because we all want to spend some time in Hotel California.
Welcome to the Hotel California.
And ladies and gentlemen, this song put Timothy Schmidt on the map because he wanted to tell you, I don't know why.
And I can tell you why.
Ladies and gentlemen, those are my picks. Once again, if you have any other suggestions, please put them down in the comments. It's always so hard to just pick a few songs because there's so many songs from the Eagles I could pick. So don't get mad at me. Those are just the ones that I wanted to stick with. But please put some extra suggestions down in the box. And please share that with the audience because the Eagles are just awesome. So thank you so much. And yeah, Eagles, yeah. Thank you so much for watching my video today. Please make sure to comment, like, subscribe, and don't forget to click that notification bell because when I release that next video, you will be the first one to know about it. But until then, please make sure to stay safe and take care. And I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun making this one, And if you have any comments, please comments right here, likes right here, subscribe right here. Thank you again. Look forward to seeing you soon.